Hello everyone, I'm Giselle. I'm with the Logitech G social team. Very happy to be here moderating the voice chat off women in gaming panel today. So I'm going to introduce our panelists and then we're going to get started. So we have Courtney Glitch City Williams, Mandy Roman, Sky Nitrous Bowie, and Susie Kim. So these women represent, some of the best examples that we have today of women in gaming, ranging from streaming, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, and in esports. So give them a warm welcome. So we'll start it off just asking, when did you guys first realize that you wanted to be in the gaming industry?
Okay. I didn't really consider this the gaming industry. I was just a fan and a player. I just played games a lot when I was a kid all the way up until college. And I started doing YouTube, just like as a hobby. It was around 2014 where I got a nice paycheck and I told my mom, I was like, I know you want me to get a real job, but look at this. And that's what I considered a real job. And I started to push the limits to see how far I can push my creativity with gaming. And it was right when I was about to graduate college, up until last year, that I wanted to push it further.
Down the line, I guess. I think for me, most of my free time just spent growing up was playing games, and so it felt like a natural transition to hopefully attempt to make a career in gaming. It was the convention scene that really kind of changed things for me, because I started going to cons very early on, whether it was an anime con or gaming or whatever it was, and the community that was built around the early days of just, whether that's getting together in a ballroom with like a CRT TV and we're playing, old school games or whatever it is, and just being around that all the time, I wanted to make a career out of it.
So for me, I grew up watching a lot of esports. Me and my brother, he's 8 years older than me, he was really into Brood War, and it was something that, I followed as well. So we just kind of watched it, and I think growing from there, I started playing a lot of games because of him. So thanks to my brother. But I think moving on forward, maybe high school, the senior year of my high school year, I really wanted to get into esports. So I did a lot of writing. I started working for Quantic, and then I moved on to a lot of other teams involved with StarCraft 2. And it just went on and on from there. And then I finally landed with Echo Fox. And I guess for me, what I really appreciated the most in the esports community was the players. At the end of the day, that's what's really important. That's what makes esports. I think from there, I have this appreciation of the hard work and the work ethic that most of these players have to go through. It's not just like you're loading up a computer and you're playing games. It's more than that, and I think that's what keeps me going as someone in the community.
It's actually really cool to hear how everyone has a different starting story. For me, it was more about community. It was about having a place where everyone has the same interest. So I'm a bit older than all of you, and so esports didn't exist really in high school or college. But it was something that I enjoyed doing. I started with Brood War as well. And for me, because I was living in South Korea, and I understand that South Korea was kind of where the esports boom happened with Brood War, I was kind of in a unique position where I can connect the two communities. So I can do interviews in Korean and bring it over to the Western fans and be able to provide that content, because I wanted the community to be, inclusivity was really a big thing for me, and I wanted everyone to be able to enjoy what I was able to enjoy and help grow that community to love the same thing that I did.
Yeah, as you pointed out, Susie, you guys represent a varying experience as far as what got you into gaming. According to the Pew Research Center, 48% of women in the United States play video games, but only 6% of them identify themselves as gamers. With women aged 18 to 29, this number rises to 9%. But by comparison, 33% of all men in that same range identify themselves as gamers. What do you think can be done to encourage women to embrace being gamers?
I think people like us, we need to put ourselves out more. For example, YouTube, they started this campaign called YouTube Black, and they wanted to promote Black creators and stuff. And me being a gamer in the Black community for YouTube, I was part of a very small percentage. And I feel like if people like us started to get out there, do movements, do gatherings together to help bring out more gamers from the female side of the genre, we could help, build up their confidence. Let them know, like, hey, this is okay, it's fine. It's cool if you call yourself a gamer. We're not judging, we're exactly like you. So it takes people like us to go that extra step for the people that needs help getting out there.
I think it's hard because the term gamer means different things to different people, and what certain folks define gamer as. I mean, for me personally, as anyone that plays video games, to me is a gamer. And I think a little bit of it is a little bit of a gatekeeping kind of mentality, where people want to be like, oh, only if you play these games are you a gamer. Only if you are hardcore about certain games should you be a gamer. And I think we have to break that stereotype and just be like, look, we all play games. Let's be in a more inclusive environment. And then, like today, have more discussions about this, whether it's more women in games, just diversify the industry as a whole. So,
I think nowadays the demographic has grown a lot more. I think, like Mandy said, the term gamer is so broad, and so like people might think, oh, if I'm a gamer, I have to play this game, this game, and it's like, no, it doesn't matter, what you play, as long as you play games, it's fine. I think nowadays we're opening our arms in the gaming community towards women. I don't think that there's too much of a gatekeeping as it was maybe like 10, 15 years ago, where people were thinking only guys can play games. It's like everyone can play games.
Yeah, everything's pretty much been said.
So do you guys think the term gamer girl or girl gamer is something that we need to reclaim in that sense and embrace that? Or do you think that there's other terminology that we could use to embrace being part of that culture?
I'll start with this one. I think we should just get rid of it altogether. Yeah. There's no reclaiming. Why do you need to? Are you a gamer boy? Are you a gamer child? No, you're just a gamer. You're just another person playing a video game and enjoying it. So gamer girl just, you know what I mean? It's an unnecessary title that I think doesn't really even need to be there. If you're a gamer, you're a gamer. So that's my opinion. I don't think we need to reclaim it. We think we should just get rid of it altogether.
So it might reinforce that gatekeeping aspect of it. So it might just be better to as you say gamer. So, to that point also, the video game industry is obviously a big part of dictating what is and is not produced as far as content. Do you think that the industry as a whole is considering the female perspective and what female gamers might want to see, or do you think that there's room for improvement there?
That's a hard one. I think developers are now paying more attention than ever to what's going on as far as politics, as far as social trends, any like world-changing events to help cater to the newer audience. And I would say some to the older audience as well. They're definitely more vigilant of what they produce, how they promote their games. As far as catering to the female audience, there are some developers, but as a whole, I don't think so. I don't think it really matters because everybody has their preference of like what game they want to play, what genre they like. So I don't think there's a specific need for them to cater to us, just as females, but just as gamers in general. Like, what does a regular gamer want to see in a game?
So I think one thing that's cool is, like, for example, Overwatch, right? They're not catering to females, but they're catering to just like everybody, right? You have like an autistic hero, and you have a gay hero, and you have You have women who are on the larger side heroes. You know, like you have a little bit of everything, and I think that's the right direction that games should go. It's inclusivity for everyone. It really doesn't need to be male, female, you know, and these really clear-cut lines. It's just kind of like a thing for everyone. And like you said, everyone has a preference of games. Like if you want to play Hello Kitty Island Adventure and you're a guy, like go for it. If that's the game you like, then sure, why not? Sure, it might be made for girls, but it doesn't matter. And you know what? If you love Call of Duty as a girl, go shoot people. It doesn't really matter, right?
I think at the end of the day, we just all want to play good games. And whether that's a male or female protagonist, whatever way, it's fine. For me, if you're going to implement a character creator, at least make it expansive enough where it is inclusive. Because you wouldn't believe how many character creators just don't have a red hair option. And that drives me really crazy. I know it's like a very minimal thing, but if you are going to offer the feature, make sure the feature is the best that it can be and it's not like an afterthought.
I think most of it has been said. I think nowadays developers are being more inclusive in regards to just not only females, but body types, genders, political backgrounds, sexual preference, everything. So it's changed a lot from like, you know, back when, 10-15 years ago, maybe like 20 years ago when I was playing Rampage, it was just 3 dudes, or no, I think it was 1 dude and then 1 chick, but that wasn't really brought up until later on when they came out with Rampage World. So like it was not really addressed back then, but nowadays we see that a lot more.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think, you know, Susie, as you brought up, Overwatch is a great example of there being inclusive characters. With games like Overwatch, though, do you still think that there's an expectation for women to play as the support character or to predominantly just play as female characters instead of playing the character they're best at?
No.
No. As a Bastion main, I would like to say that I am not a robot, and yet I enjoy playing. I like Torbjorn as well, and I'm not a small Swedish man. So, no, absolutely not. Again, it's just like the same theme, right? You play what you want to play. You play what you're good at, and yes, actually, there seems to be a higher number of women who do play support, but that's just if that's what they want to play. Then it's not because they have to play that role. It's because that's what they're most comfortable with, and that's what games should be. It's something fun and comfortable that you do, and hopefully stress-free.
Yeah, please no bad things about playing a support role, because we need more support roles, please. Everyone should have to play support, and like once.
You should at least know how to play 1 support in
Yes.
Overwatch.
Could still get kills, I guarantee.
Definitely a good recommendation. They would be the ones to know. So, you know, in multiplayer games, we all have varying experiences with voice chat. Can you guys share some of the experiences that you guys have had so that we can kind of set the stage for that?
Ooh, I have a fun one.
Yeah.
So a couple of days ago, I was just playing ranked in Overwatch, and apparently there was like 15 hours left, so I'm trying to grind out. Trying to get to Masters. So as I'm playing, our diva, she's a girl, and she goes in chat and she says, you know, Mikria is old, and some dude just goes, shut up. And I'm like, bro, like what the heck? So, you know, he keeps egging on her and keeps saying that she's stupid, she doesn't know what she's doing, and I'm like, okay, this is like getting out of control. And I told him, like, why are you flaming someone for no reason? He's like, because she's a stupid girl. And I'm like, okay, that's a new one, I've never heard that before. But it's that kind of like behavior that scares people away from talking on chat. I've had a couple friends who told me, like, they'll listen to chat, but they won't like say anything because they're scared. If I'm going to say something, someone might criticize me for it. And I've had that before. And it sucks for sure. And I think you shouldn't be scared to be talking in chat. You shouldn't be having to think about if someone's going to scrutinize me because I'm a girl and they won't care what I'm saying. You should be vocal. Who cares what they say? Who cares what anyone says? Just because you're a girl doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I've had a lot of awful experiences. I won't get into specifics, but I've been PC gamer quite a long time, and I played a lot of Left 4 Dead in the early days, and we get a lot of really toxic folks on Steam, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But I've found that at least with Overwatch community, I've had a lot fewer bad experiences, but it also is very helpful to speak in voice comms, and actually the first person to speak in chat, it usually kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game. Like if someone started the voice comms, then kind of everyone else then trickles thereafter. So I always try to say hi as soon as we start, because then it's off to like a more positive, like start, okay, oh good, we have communication, like we might actually win a match. So I would encourage more of it, because at the end of the day, it's a team game. You need to communicate to win.
And looping back to your first point of like, you know, girls who don't identify as being a gamer, and it is because of things like that. It's because, you know, the moment you say, yeah, I'm a gamer, they're like, yeah, right, I'm sure you are. And you're like, okay, never mind. This conversation, yeah, and you're just like, this conversation is not going anywhere. Like, why am I proving this to you? Wherefore, if a guy was like, I'm a gamer, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool, you know, and you accept it. So I think that kind of loops around to your question, why there's a lot of women who don't do it. But I think we're also on a healthy track to try to change that. And like that we said, we should just kind of set that tone, you know, Mandy, like set that tone when we get into voice chat, and just kind of shut down the toxic players and just be like, dude, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And to that point, do you think there's anything that not only female gamers, but just gamers as a whole can do to promote that environment? Do you think that it starts with what they're seeing from the streamers they watch, the esports players, or are there other things that we could be doing that could help that positive environment grow?
Yeah, I mean, streamers, I think, have an incredible power that they don't realize they have. They're influencers. There's tons of young, potential new gamers watching, and if they see your example and you see you being respectful to the people you play with and treating everyone exactly the same, women or men or whoever, you know, and I think that goes a really long way. And so I think we can start with content creators and just showing that kind of positive, what's the word I'm looking for? Positive actions, positive behavior, and you know, it sticks with you. And especially if you're a 13-year-old kid watching these streams, like it's something that's kind of in the back of your mind, and you're like, oh, well, my favorite streamer is really nice. Maybe I'll be really nice. Maybe we could hope, but you know, I think that's kind of where we start from. I think content creators really have a large voice in instigating this change.
Yeah, we have to also stop rewarding the toxicity. I feel like some of the biggest streamers that are out there, especially, you know, on Twitch, obviously, are very toxic, and they're making a lot of money for being that way. And I think there's a difference between just trash talk and just kind of, you know, having fun and joking with either people in your stream, and then there's like just pure like just vitriol that is being spewed by some of these guys, and yet they're getting tons of subs, tons of comments, tons of, you know, donations, and we have to kind of break that and kind of change the expectation of what I think a streamer is or should be, or how they should act.
Yeah, the audience for some of these creators are very young, very impressionable. That's one thing I had to learn personally while growing my channel, is that they pay attention to every single thing you do, and it's scary. It's really, really scary. You have to be pretty much on your A game 24/7. It's hard, it's exhausting, but at the end, you're making an impact on your own community, and in turn, they also impact their own communities or their families, their friends, etc. So it does boil down to the creator itself. Like, they do have to be accountable to some degree for their audience. If they're putting out, like, you know, negative stuff out there, promoting X, Y, and Z, their audience will take heart to that, and it'll just become a bad chain reaction. So creators definitely do have to watch what they're doing, what they're saying in public, what they post, etc., just to make sure, you know, they're not spreading the wrong message.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think we're starting to see that more as esports, you know, grows and grows in the numbers, and even the professional leagues that are associated with it. We're seeing the players act in a manner that's much more similar to professional sports players. But to that point, we also see a disproportionate amount of men versus women in esports. Obviously, esports is based on skill. You know, these are some of the best players in the world. Do you think that we should be doing anything to encourage more women to consider this as an option if they have the skill? Should we be creating more leagues for them to make it a more inclusive environment? Or are there any other strategies we should be employing?
So I think for like esports, when it comes to women in esports, we're seeing a lot of like pro players so far. We see Keguri from Overwatch League. We also see Scarlet from StarCraft 2. We see a lot of women trying to participate in these leagues, and they're good at it. In my perspective, I don't think we need women leagues. I think, if anything, we need to encourage these women like, hey, look, these are a great example. If you're good at the game, you should be able to participate. It shouldn't be, hey, we want to give you leeway because you're a woman. You should be a pro player because you're a woman. That should never be the case. And I think that in that perspective, we see a lot of girls trying to be like, hey, you know, Kekuri's a great Zarya. She's kicking ass on Diva. And I want to do that too. I want to play like that too. So I think with these exemplary women in the community and in the leagues, they're encouraging all these other pro players or all these other people in the community to say, I can do that too.
I'll have to completely agree with that. I personally am not a fan of female-only leagues because with video games, like I understand in traditional sports, there's a physical limitation. Like most women are never going to be as strong or as fast as a man. Like biologically, that's just not possible. Wherefore in video games, it's all more about reaction speed and decision making, which are things that men and women. Okay, yes, there are some studies that tell me there are differences in that, but for the most part, it's an equal playing field. And I think if you're good enough, then go and do it. If you're a woman who is good enough and doesn't want to do it, then that's fine too, though. Like, I don't understand this need for, we have to have more women in professional scenes, we must have them, because those girls might just not want to play. You know, they just don't want to deal with all the bullshit that comes with being a pro player, whether you're female or not, and that's, you know, living in a team house, having a dictated schedule, like, maybe they just don't want to do it. So I agree with you. I don't think there should be a separate female league. And what we can do to encourage is just show the successes of the women who have done it. And if that's something that they want to pursue, just encourage that instead of, you know, telling them to, you know, stop gaming or anything like that. I think they want us to move the mics closer, by the way.
Yep.
Well, I feel like the ceiling should never be lowered for us to catch up. Like you said, there are some players out there that are good at that high level. For example, Barcode, she's extremely good at Overwatch. I don't know if she wants to go professional or not. If she did, we would see her name by now. Maybe she's fine with being a streamer. That's the case for a lot of players, actually. Maybe they don't want to be in that environment, but never, ever, ever the ceiling should be lowered for us, because that's just, in my opinion, disrespectful for us, and it kind of takes away the narrative that we're trying to push.
Yeah, I just say it starts at the ground level. It starts in development. It starts with the studios being more diverse with, you know, the games they're making, the people they're hiring. That in turn reflects to the games that they make, and then that is then the people that are playing the games is more diverse, and then there's a larger pool of players to select from and recruit for these teams. And yeah, to everyone's point, not everyone wants to become an esports pro that's good enough to do so. It takes a very specific type of person to want to pursue that as a career. So.
And since we are on a college campus, I do want to bring it back to also the college level for esports. Obviously, with Title IX being a consideration for college campuses, what do you then think are some strategies that colleges should take into consideration when promoting their professional, varsity teams? Because is it a sport? Is it under, activities? How do we then balance men and women wanting to be in that when we have to take into consideration these other factors?
Well, since I literally just came from a college environment last year, I didn't really realize how big esports has been on a collegiate level because it wasn't offered at all or discussed at my college. I went to a historical black college, so it's kind of like frowned upon, honestly. But the college itself, for one, it does have to be open-minded about the fact that it's including esports in their facility.
I think they want us to take the mics off the stand.
We can take it off. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, how did you do that?
I lifted it up.
Oh, there, okay.
For one, the college has to be open-minded. They have to treat it how you would treat any other sport or any other, I would say, club at the time, and basically treat it how you would treat it as any other activity you would on campus. Don't treat it as like, oh, it's just a hobby for, college kids to hang out and have fun. No, maybe some people want to pursue this as like, a long-lasting career. Definitely, I feel like the colleges seem to be more open-minded about the idea.
Yeah, I would have to agree. When I was applying for schools, there were 2 schools in the entire United States that had game design programs, and it was like, okay, you're going to go to Orlando, or you're going to go to Los Angeles, and so I chose LA. But I think they need to realize kind of where gamers' kind of heads are and the type of careers they might be interested in pursuing, and then if they want to get more kids applying and doing courses at their campuses, then esports is a great place for that. And it's not just players, it's the management, it's the staff, it's people running leagues, it's all that kind of stuff. So
I think it's so far, UCI is one of the greatest examples for the gaming community being implemented into colleges. We have other schools like Robert Morrison, and we have NYU teaching, I think, StarCraft classes, which is pretty cool, to be honest. We, as Echo Fox, we just had I think we did something with Amazon and UCI students, and that type of activity and that type of event is very inclusive with colleges. We have also League of Legends with Riot. They also have, I believe they have some collegiate tournaments going on as well from other schools. One of our players, Papa Chow, he went to Robert Morrison, and he's one of our, I believe, league players as well. So we're starting to see all these colleges take action and look at this and say, look, it's also a job. It also can be a career aside from something that you can play as a hobby.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think it is really important that we have business classes for esports business. We need, management skills. And then when you go into graphic arts and making content, all those overlays, those just don't appear by themselves. So I think colleges kind of need to start refocusing on where the next generation of students are going to get their jobs and what is the growing trend. In that, sports psychology is also a very big field that is necessary. And as esports continues to grow and become, just bigger entities, I think the school systems also need to prepare our students for the future as well. I know that Twitch also has a program that works with collegiate. They do a lot of different things to promote esports in the different universities, not even just in the United States, but all over the world. There's a bunch of schools in Europe. If Garvey was here, he'd give me a really big smile because that's his baby and his project. But it's more about letting students understand that this is actually a viable future and a viable career, and they can get a head start in preparing themselves to be a part of something big.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I think, the common theme in what we've been hearing is there's definitely strategies in place to foster inclusion. And that's definitely something that, if we can say we represent the gaming community, we want to see. Obviously, there are strategies in play from outside of the community that may or may not work. What do you think are some of the things that the developers, the peripheral companies, the overall esports leagues can do to foster that inclusion?
I think Riot so far has started to be very inclusive with college students. There are those leagues, like I said, with the collegiate leagues for the players from different universities to come down to the Riot Studios and play for the finals. We do see, I would love to see that actually, to be honest. With other games, aside from the big leagues like Riot, League of Legends, we have Overwatch League, we should be having more companies be inclusive aside from their big leagues with more of the college students to say, hey, look, if you want to play games as a professional career, it's possible. And you shouldn't be scared. It shouldn't be something where, it's not a viable job. I think like a couple years back, I'm going to bring in a little bit of my personal life. My boyfriend, he went to SNU, Seoul National University, and his dad was continuously saying, you can't, be a professional gamer, you can't do this and that because it's not a viable job. And it wasn't a viable job back then, and he took a leap for it. And because of that, he had to take a break from school because it was just so hard for him to, I guess, do both at the same time. But with all of these colleges, especially with UCI adding in tuitions and all the game developers being a lot more inclusive and being very supportive of college students, we're seeing a lot of people who are really young, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, who are like, hey, I want to continue doing school, but I also want to pro play as well.
And I think it's important to prepare these kids, or I call them kids, they're young adults, excuse me, for life after esports too. I've seen too many stories now where, they've had their stint as a pro and the limelight, made all this money, and then now what? And how have they been equipped for kind of life after being a pro player?
I forgot your question. I was asking, what can the leagues, the studios, the game peripheral companies, what can we do to foster inclusion in gaming, but also how can we prepare people for being a part of this community?
For one, I think at universities, aside from all of the programs to help feature, also provide classes on how to be not toxic and how to not be like a jerk. I know it's such a simple thing, but I think there needs to be a guideline where it's like, when you're gaming and when you're playing with other people, you should be like this and don't do this. I think there just kind of needs to be a universal guideline that organizers and tournaments kind of stick to. And that way we set a precedence of like, hey, if you break this rule, like you're getting fined or you're going to get banned or something. And I feel like that kind of needs to be a standard. And that will help new gamers feel more welcome in a space and know that they're not going to be shot down or be called terrible things because there's a guideline in place. So that would be really nice to see.
They basically said everything. I do like Susie's idea of a class on how to not be toxic, how to be a decent human being. And I do like the management ideas because I've known many orgs that have fell through the roof because management is just shit. So I think classes to prepare young adults, it feels weird saying that, pretty much making the jump into esports, they actually have a solid background on how to build up on a organization instead of just like taking a kid from high school and putting them in the fire.
And I think also what's interesting as well with a lot of the teams like Team Liquid, we have Equifox as well, we're working with players to make sure like you're prepared to get into the esports leagues. You're also prepared to, after you're done with esports, if you want to do something else, you can. If you want to play other games, you can. We have tons of players who are like, hey, I'm done with playing XYZ. I want to try out this game and I want to continue being a pro player. And I think with college students and the collegiate leagues, they should be including that type of behavior and classes as well, because we don't see that enough. We don't see players, they don't know where to go after they're done. And that's a huge worrisome to me to see, a lot of players suffer after their pro playing career.
Yeah, that sounds like really great advice. And I think that kind of segues perfectly into kind of the last question before we get into a Q&A. What advice would you give someone wanting to get into not only esports, but the gaming industry? Like, what would you tell your 10-year-old self if you could go back?
keep playing that Pokemon game because you never know, you may become pro. Do what you want to do. Don't let anybody stop you. And just do it.
My 10-year-old self, I'd probably say you should have gotten into gaming a lot earlier. I started with Super Nintendo and had a long chunk of time where I didn't play anything until I got a PlayStation 2. So I would have said, hey, why didn't you continue? Like, you should have kept doing that. I would just say have fun with it. At the end of the day, we're playing video games. Like, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a hobby. Play the games you love with the characters you love, and find a good group of friends to play with. And usually that group of friends, you kind of skip from game to game.
I think if I were to tell something to my 10-year-old self, I'd probably say don't seek validation from other people but yourself. Do what you like doing and take an action for it. Don't be scared to do it, because at the end of the day, you know, as long as you're happy and you're fulfilling your career and your needs, that's what's important the most. And who cares if someone says, you know, you're a girl, you shouldn't be a part of the community.
I think at 10, I had an NES. I think it had just come out.
Nice.
So 10-year-old self, in terms of gaming, I don't think I would really do anything different, to be totally honest with you. My advice for people, because I get this question a lot, how do I get into esports? It seems so hard, you know, etc. And I tell them, first, find what you're good at. What are you good at? Are you creative? Are you a good leader? Are you know, just figure that out. And then look at esports on the whole and go, where can I apply my skill? Can I help this content creator, you know, make graphics, or can I help this manager translate, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, find what you're good at, find where you can help, and then try to put that together, right? And it's always easier when you like what you're doing. So if you want to be a part of an esports team and you like that team, it's kind of natural that you can go. And also, don't be afraid to volunteer your time. Just because you want to be in esports doesn't mean you're going to get paid right away. Like, a lot of us who started in the beginning, God knows, I've spent thousands of my own money just to go to events, or just so I can get a press pass and translate this one interview or whatever, just because I liked it. If you like it, just do it. Just go and do it. And if you're good at it, you'll get a job, or you'll find a way to do it. If you're not good at it, I would suggest that you quit, because it kind of sucks if you're like trying something and you're not good at it for a really, really long time. Then you might want to reconsider your option. I'm being realistic here, but honestly, just do. I think that's the theme of it. Just go and do it.
Like Nike says.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
And lurk team discords. I find that is a
Yeah,
very good
and
place to
networking is definitely key. I would say that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should give all of the panelists a big round of applause. You know, listening to their stories, I think that everybody in this room could definitely take away something from that. And, you know, we want to open it up to the room. If you guys have any questions, we're happy to take those. Yes.
I have a question for Susie. I guess anybody can answer. On the last point that you made about figuring out where your skill is and figuring out how that applies in esports, are there particular skills that you're finding are lacking in esports that maybe somebody in this room has that skill and it's like, oh, okay, I can take advantage of this situation?
Work ethic and competency. Sorry, I'm being totally honest. I think I do face a lot of people who go, I want to work in esports because I love video games, and then they get there and then they're just like, oh wait, I actually have to work? You mean I'm not just watching pros play video games all day? And you're like, no, you actually have a schedule that you need to keep with. I think good managers are in need right now for pro teams. Managers meaning someone who just has their shit together and can take care of the team, make sure they have their shit together. I think that's lacking because esports is very Korean driven. Korean English speakers are lacking. Good translators are always in need. I would say content creators in terms of making content for teams, fun videos, creative ideas to get that highlight for your team to, you know, get them more fans, thus more sponsors, thus more money. Yeah, I mean, there's honestly, there's tons of different things. If you're good at finance, and find a team that maybe you can help them towards that. You're in law school, but you don't want to do boring things like patent law. Look into esports law, and maybe you can help, players not get screwed over with their contracts, or look over their benefits for them. Financial advisors. A lot of these players are like 18, 19 years old, have no idea what they're going to do with their money. There's so many different avenues to be able to get into esports. You just have to network and find that right niche for you and pursue it.
Over there. On the topic of women in gaming, when we're experiencing, or when a situation is happening where somebody's, So on the topic of women in gaming, when there's a situation where somebody's being abrasive or saying, oh, you're a stupid girl, whatever, as a guy, I'm wondering, would it be better for me to, if the person that's being harassed is not stepping up and defending themselves, for me to step up, or is it better to let them defend themselves? Because I want to try to avoid the sort of white knighting stereotype where when it's not warranted, and I want to make sure that I'm knowing when and how to do that.
I would say if that person is being a dumbass, call them out.
Okay.
Because then everybody else will call them out.
Especially in a team game.
Oh, definitely.
It's really helpful when you've got your team rallying behind you and stop acting like a jackass guy. And then I usually just mute them or block them. Pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't think you should be scared. Who cares if someone says that you're a white knight? I think at the end of the day, you're a decent human being that just wants to help out a fellow gamer as well.
Just don't be over the top. Don't be like, you cannot be saying this because, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me, don't, no, I think just being a good human being and being like, I don't think that was really necessary, and just calling them out. I think that's very helpful. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Over here.
So I have a question for the panel. What is your opinion on e-girls and women that use their sexuality to gain a following, and if that hurts or harms the personification of women in esports?
Oh boy.
I've actually, I didn't really hear the term e-girl until last summer, and I got so confused. And I looked it up on Urban Dictionary, and that was the worst thing I could have done. I was like, I don't even play League of Legends. But I really hate that term. And as far as women using their sexuality, I really don't care. As long as they're playing the game, they're entertaining, they're doing their community good, they can do whatever they want. I really don't care.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I think it's their choice. I mean, you could have a really muscular guy who likes to be a e-boy, and if he wanted to, right? He can sit there in whatever that doesn't go against TOS and Speedos or something and play a game if he wants to. I mean, hey, if he wants to, then that's his choice. So in terms of e-girls or girls who use their sexuality, more power to them. That's their choice, that's their body, and that's what they're wanting to do. If someone's forcing them to, that's a whole different story. Yeah. But if they want to do it themselves, then that's fine. You take that for what it is, and then girls who don't, you take that for what it is. Or I don't think it. Do you think it harms?
I don't think it harms. I think there's this conception they're stealing our views. And I'm like, where does that come from? You can't own views. The same person that's going to watch an e-girl is not the same probably consumer that's going to go to pro player stream and watch them stream. It's a different audience, and that's totally, again, their prerogative. If that's what they want to do, then so be it. Who am I to say you can't do that? Yeah.
I would say respect the hustle. I wish I could do that. I respect the hustle.
Some of them are really hot. I mean,
know, right?
I'll watch some of them too. They're entertaining. That's yeah.
All right. Question in the back.
Mandy made a really interesting point earlier talking about female-only tournaments or women-only tournaments and trying to avoid lowering the ceiling so that everything kind of...
Courtney.
Sorry.
No worries.
But yeah, point was made, we shouldn't lower the ceiling. Is there a way you think that without changing that, we could also potentially raise the floor, make it so that there are ways that it's easier for women to get onboarded, communities are built to be more inclusive of them, without changing the nature of the highest level of competition, that we're still finding ways to bolster the ways that women can be involved in increasing the accessibility of those communities?
I think I mentioned earlier is like people like us and pro players, they have to go that extra mile to help bring them out. I don't really have much, like I know there's a lot, but it's only so much you can do to encourage them to come out and let them, you know, show them that this is a possibility for them if this is what they want.
I think having panels like this is a good first step. I mean, the more we talk about it, the more we make it the norm. That yes, we're here, we're out here. Like, you know, there are women out there, and this is an inclusive place, and you know, let's just game together. At the end of the day, I think it's just kind of changing how we think about, you know, what a typical gamer looks like, I guess, in a sense.
I think it also all stems down from just playing these competitive games and being a decent human, like everyone says. Like, I'm just gonna keep saying that, be a decent human. And I think it stems from playing games first, being inclusive there, not being a jerk. And it then moves on to, you know, pro players. It then moves on to people wanting to be a pro player. And I guess over time, we are starting to see that. I think we still need change. I think we still have a lot of toxicity out there, and we need to address that. But we also have these amazing developers and game companies who are like, hey, we don't accept that. Blizzard's one of the biggest ones. With Overwatch League, you get banned for saying anything that's not, I mean, once you're reported. So I think it really stems down from the game itself, and then it kind of speaks for the community and the esports community.
Agreed.
Right here.
I think going back to maybe mostly Susie and Sky's points about the ways that this has changed over time and over your time in gaming for everybody, but what would you say are the big noticeable like strides we've taken like for women in gaming? Like what are the big changes you've seen either in tournaments or in games? Like it's easy to be impatient and to be like, why isn't it all fixed right now? And like, what can we do to fix it by tomorrow? But I just want to take a second to highlight like what has changed. What are you inspired by?
I think, so growing up, I grew up in the 80s, and it was very much like, girls don't play video games. Boys do. Boys can play sports, and it was, you saw that gender divide very much so. And now I'm in a place where I can be the parent. Most of my generation is, 30, 40 something, and now we are the parents. And I think as we raise our children and we look at them and we go, no, it doesn't matter if you're a girl and you want to do this, it doesn't matter if you're a boy, you want to do this. Like, I think that with the change of time and generation and the way we think, it will help eventually just kind of blur those lines. You do what you want to do, and your parents will be supportive of you, because those gender lines, I think, become a lot more blurred now in 2018 and forward. A lot of things that have changed. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. Yes, we have to be patient. But with Overwatch League, for example, I do see parents bring their daughters cosplaying with a big sign for their favorite player and stuff, and showing that it's okay. Like, we're gonna go and have a fun time at this event. We're gonna watch a video game, and here's your favorite player, and and it becomes a normal thing to do. It's like going to a sports game with your mom and dad. We're gonna go watch baseball. We're gonna go watch Overwatch. It's the same thing. And I think just as that mentality changes, and it'll just continue to change. I mean, the generations are just evolving as we speak. So I think due time.
And I agree with what Susie said. I'm a little bit younger than Susie, but I mean, growing up, my parents were like the biggest, naysayers. They're always saying like, you can't play games, or
But your brother can.
my brother can. So I mean, he got the NES, and I'm just like, can I play with them? And he's like, yeah, but my parents would be like, you need to get off of that. You should be playing with dolls, and you should play with other things. And nowadays my parents have seen how much esports has grown and how much esports has changed, and not only that, how society has changed and the perception of society. So we're seeing that change, and for me, I mean, it means the most that my parents are really supportive in my job and just what I like doing. I think in 10, 20 years, we're going to see more change, if anything. In 2018, we're not only inclusive with gender, we're also inclusive with sexual preferences and political backgrounds. It doesn't matter what you are, it doesn't matter what you do. At the end of the day, we're all gamers.
Do we have time for one more question or last one? All right, right here.
So I've heard a lot about a woman's role, or a woman's expanding role in esports, but one question I do actually have regarding that is the role of, or the expansion of the role of women in the analysis community, because like, for example, I work for the UCI esports program. We have 4 coaches and analysts and 6 players. So you can see that ratio is actually pretty standard, but I've never in my life even met a female analyst. I've been asked about it, but nobody's actually taken it seriously. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think, or those of you who have a more esports background, think about what are the bridges that need to be crossed for that to become more of a reality?
So you're an analyst.
I'm a coach, but yeah.
You're a coach. You're a coach or analyst.
Yes.
Okay. Would you ever be a cook for a team? Or do you want to be like...
Well, I would, but
no,
I don't think they want it.
I think it's just... maybe just it's a boring job and they don't want to do it. I mean, you can't ask why are there not more X, because it's a preference question, right? And to be honest, being an analyst, and that's a lot of math, that's a lot of statistics, that's a lot of like strategy, and I don't know a lot of people who actually enjoy that. And so when you have the pool of people who might actually enjoy it, and then those who might actually enjoy esports as well, I think that number kind of gets smaller. But I don't think there is a definitive answer for that. It's just people don't like doing.
So you don't think there's anything systemic keeping women out of that community?
No. It's not that they're kept out. I just think that there's a small pool, and you're just not finding that. Maybe they're just not here at UCI.
All right. With that, can we give our panelists one more round of applause? And thank you all for joining us for Voice Chat Off.
Oh, the mini airplane water.